In this demo, I'll show how project accountants can use the Project Cost Exceptions Assistant to reduce the manual effort required to investigate, analyze, and triage unprocessed project cost exceptions. Katie Lynch is a project accountant responsible for 3 different business units. She needs to ensure project costs are imported on a timely basis to support downstream processes such as forecasting, billing, revenue recognition, and capitalization. She therefore needs to identify, analyze, and quickly resolve the root causes for any exceptions raised during the import costs process. Prior to the assistant, Katie identified unprocessed project cost exceptions using the project cost overview page. Here, Katie sees a summary of the unprocessed project cost exceptions broken down and categorized by business unit, transaction source, and document. That is, a representation by the source of the exceptions rather than by the nature of the exceptions. In order to see the specific exception reason, she must drill down to the individual transactions and click on the errors icon. She must repeat this process for all exceptions. Now let's see how Katie can identify and analyze project cost exceptions using the assistant. Katie has navigated to the AI Agents Explore area, where she has searched for and initiated the Project Cost Exceptions Assistant. There are 2 starter questions: learn what I can do and get all exceptions. This is Katie's first use of the Project Cost Exceptions Assistant, and she wants to familiarize herself with its capabilities. She therefore chooses the Learn What I Can Do option. The assistant introduces itself and gives a brief description of its capabilities. A default created in the last 90 days filter is automatically applied to any exception search, unless you explicitly remove or change it in your request. Katie's now ready to start using the assistant. She starts by simply entering the request, Get All Exceptions. As Katie hasn't specified any filter criteria, the assistant retrieves, summarizes, and categorizes all of the unprocessed project cost exceptions for the 3 business units to which Katie has access. The total number of exceptions is 105. Note that the filter criteria of creation date in the last 90 days has automatically been applied. The assistant displays the exception count for each of the exception categories encountered. Katie is able to see at a glance the general nature or cause of the exceptions. At this point, Katie could choose to drill down to see the exception types for any given category. But Katie knows that one of her business units is scheduled to begin its month-end close process soon. So she wants to focus on resolving the exceptions for that business unit first. She enters the following request to filter exceptions for that one business unit. Show exceptions for the business unit Vision Operations. The assistant applies the business unit filter and queries the exceptions again. Note that the overall exception count is now 25, and the business unit filter has been added. Katie doesn't have access to maintain cost rate schedules herself, so she wants to look at the rate definition exceptions first, as she will have to involve the appropriate administrator to resolve these exceptions. To drill down to the exception types for the rate definition category, Katie only needs to enter the number of the category in the displayed table. She enters 1. The assistant now queries and displays a summary of exceptions by exception type. Note that the exception category has automatically been added to the filter criteria. Katie sees that there are 2 distinct exception types. Cost rate for the non-labor transaction is missing, and cost rate for the worker is missing. She wants to see the missing worker cost rate exceptions, so she enters the row number for this exception type. She enters 2. The assistant now displays a table of the exception details, which is a summary of the exception transactions rejected with the cost rate for the worker is missing exception type. The exceptions are grouped based on the key attributes that are relevant for this type of exception. For the missing worker cost rate exception type, the key attributes required in order to resolve the exceptions are the worker name or number, the cost rate schedule, and the date of the transaction. When there are multiple exceptions across different dates for the same worker and rate schedule, the assistant displays the earliest and latest transaction dates. Note that when there is only one exception transaction grouped based on the key attributes, then the assistant includes a deep link to the transaction in the Manage Unprocessed Costs page. Below the list of exception details, the assistant shows possible resolution options for that exception type. Katie now has all of the information she needs to inform the application's administrator of the missing worker rates issues. At this point, she can enter exception types to return to the table of distinct errors to explore the details for another exception type. To explore a different exception category altogether, she can enter exception categories to return to the summarized exception count by category table. In summary, by using the Project Cost Exceptions Assistant, Katie is able to quickly identify the root causes and resolution options of exceptions without having to review individual transactions in online overview pages or reports, thus speeding up the exception triage process and enabling a quicker and smoother month-end closure process. This concludes the demo. Thank you.